look like I'm going bowling in this outfit.
It's really cute. I love this little top.
Here we are. You guys, this is Karlee Fomalont.
That's
right.
right.
Correct?
You actually did. No one ever has said it correctly.
Well, I checked your Instagram and it like the spelling out.
It's a new thing that I've added because, yeah, it's just the never-ending problem of my life.
What do people say?
Fomalont. There's always a mystery R that's put in before the M.
Okay.
Or
Fomalont?
all kinds of things.
Is it French?
It is.
Oh, okay. I'm French.
Fomalont?
Yeah, exactly. Fomalont. Okay. Oui. Okay, oui.
Un peu de français.
Moi aussi. I take my little French classes.
I love that. I want to do in-person French, but I'm like, I don't know if I can like consistently have a time carved out that I'm like, every Wednesday at 5:30 I go to French because we're just at the whims of production.
Well, yeah,
but it's like my dream.
I'm going to tell you about a little site. It's called Preply.com.
Preply, okay.
And I work with somebody like who's in Paris.
Oh, wow. We have things that we're going to exchange after
I know, and
this.
also Vintner's Daughter in your bathroom.
Oh, yeah. My fave.
My fave.
Yeah.
Expensive AF, but like really worth it.
Liquid gold, my friend calls it.
Liquid gold.
Yeah.
It really is, and your skin is amazing.
Thank you so much.
What?
Wow.
Ah!
It's the lights.
Oh my god, we have so many things to chat about. I can't wait. Okay. So you guys, I like just barged into Karlee's apartment, as I do, and she's a casting director, works with Rori Bergman, just a huge casting office in the city. It's kind of nice because I feel like a lot of people outside the industry don't really know what casting directors do.
Nope. And now's a great time to learn because now we have an Oscar, so you're going to see us more.
I know! Okay, so let's just start there since that's where we are. Thank God it's about time.
Thank God it's about time. Yeah.
Okay, do you remember the documentary back in like 2012?
Casting by?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
I feel like at that point I was certain that it was
the tide would turn.
Yes.
I know.
And it took only 13 more years because it's not going to start until next year, right?
Yes, that's right. Anything that comes out 2025 will qualify for the 2026 Oscars where it will begin.
Yeah. And I listened to in an interview, or maybe I read it somewhere, that it was really sweet how you talked about it because it wasn't about getting accolades for you or your work, even though you should get that, but it was about raising awareness of like this part of the industry that is often so overlooked, and it's such a big part of it. Yeah,
I mean, casting really started at the studios as secretaries. Like, casting directors were not a job. You should watch the documentary Casting By.
Yeah.
But there's this, you know,
ignore the Taylor Hackford parts,
which is heartbreaking, but also kind of illuminating because it shows you this narrative that's so strong in the industry that we are there to service, which we are. We're there to service the director's vision. Like, I always equate us to, like, interior designers where I'm like, you're the client and I'm going to, like, source, you know, sometimes you're, like, building a room from scratch and you're like, build it. I have no idea what I want. And so you bring in all these different kinds of, like, ideas and color swabs and textures. And then sometimes it's really clear and specific and they're like, this is the statement couch and build everything around it. And you're like, okay, so you've got your lead actor attached, if you will, and then you build it around it.
I love this.
And so, you know, but back in the day, casting were literally secretaries at the studio and we were like treated as such for a really long time of like, we are just this group of women and gay men and maybe like 2 straight men thrown in the mix. But predominantly women that are secretaries to the production and just organize the cast based on who like the studio owns. But then obviously everything has changed a lot, but a lot of directors for a long time held on to this idea because casting is really very personal, and the cast is the vehicle of which you tell a story. So it was really, directors would take ownership of the cast that they chose, which is fair because they were making final decisions, but they completely ignored the process of who was sourcing all of it, who was curating, and who was helping consult to make all the correct choices, because our piece of the industry is to keep our eye on the whole puzzle. And so we source very strategically to help keep an eye on this one very specific narrow piece of a project while the director's doing, they're making choices on every single thing in a production, and our whole job is just to protect the storytelling through the cast. So, but I really, like, genuinely, like, to have an Oscar would be insane. And it's, like, insane to even dream now that that's something that could happen in my lifetime. Yeah. But more so, like, I really think it's going to add legitimacy to this as a job, because you would be shocked, like, people both that I'm very close to in my life or people that I meet casually are like, so what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, this.
Stop, wait.
You would be shocked how much I'm asked. Like, that casting isn't an end goal career to a lot of people. Like, it's not considered, like, the way that you're like, oh, but to be a producer, it's just like a little bit flashier, or it feels like there's this, there's a creative end goal that comes with a lot of these other jobs that do have awards merit and do have this payoff. And so I'm really hoping now, like, when I'm like, no, I really would like to be a casting director with my life and to be a great one. And that's my goal, is to keep getting better and, you know, keep like building relationships and working on great projects. Like, that's the goal. I don't want to do anything. I don't know how to do anything else at this point. So,
I mean,
but I really think that having an Oscar will change the entire perception of our corner of the industry.
I've interned in casting offices because I actually think it's like really important to see that other side.
I started as an actor interning at a casting office.
Right. So, and so like seeing this industry from so many different vantage points is helpful to just, I don't know, create a fuller picture of what's actually happening.
Yeah.
And I feel like as being an intern in a casting office, you see all of the work that goes into it. And not just like administrative work at all, like the creativity and like the lists that you guys make of hundreds of actors to send to directors.
My brain is can I curse on this podcast?
Yes.
My brain is a fucked up place.
Like,
my brain is just like a Rolodex of names.
Yeah.
Like, my friends, like, I'm insufferable to watch anything with because I'll just be like, oh, it's that person, naming like full names of anyone I see, and they're like, put your hands down, shut your mouth, like, it's like I have this knee-jerk reaction to just like scream a name because I get excited and I recognize people, but it's like the only thing my brain is good for now is like, you look like this person that let me add you to this thing. Like, it's like, that's just how my brain works now. So I mean, I'm broken forever.
Crazy to think how many thousands of people you have in your brain.
I hold a lot of names in my brain, and it's like, if there's anything that an actor can take away from this, it's like, we literally have to know and have to care who you are. Because there's this like weird myth too that like, we don't watch tapes, or we don't like, we're inaccessible, or we don't care, or something, and it's like, no, our entire livelihood is based on, we're only as good as the people we know, and we're only as good as like, you know, who we can like put up for different things, or, you know, who we trust to go on sets. And so like, my brain is just filled with, I'm obsessed with people. I love people.
We should talk about like all of the work that you do, and just so people understand the projects that you're working on. Baz Luhrmann's The Get Down. We have Steven Spielberg's The Post. I Care a Lot. Oh my gosh, I just was watching, wait, don't tell me. You can't tell me because I'm not. You hurt my feelings.
Oh, like one of the best, like, I think that's the most special project we've ever done.
I love Nicole
Holofcener. Yep. Nicole Holofcener.
Yes.
She's
so much.
Unbelievable.
The women, the worlds that she creates for those women, and the women at the center of those worlds, like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, we have Catherine Hahn, we have Michaela Watkins, like those are the women that I look up to and admire so much. Yeah. And so when I saw
she just
your
like
name
is
on
one of those women too. Like you see her like on set with them and you're like, oh, you're all cut from the same cloth. Like she's amazing.
Oh my God, if I could be cut from like one thread of that cloth, I would be thrilled.
I know. She's amazing. But that movie was really special because it was like, we got to work with Jeannie on it, and Anthony, who's like the God's gift of producing, and it's just like the nicest person to work with. And it was like, if you like cut open mine and Rory's hearts and looked at like, who do we like just love in New York? It's like all of those people.
Yeah.
It's like some of our most like favorite New York weirdos from like, and I love like the comedy scene and the underground comedy scene. So it's a lot of like,
Mani's.
It's like, and like Spike Einbinder and like all those, you know, like funny, and you know, Carolina Teresa is in it, who I love. He's like another great stand-up.
Well, it's funny because like watching it, like after you know your work a little bit, you're not surprised when you see those faces pop up. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Like I feel like I know your taste now.
That's really cool.
And that's on what you cast.
That's how we feel about You Hurt My Feelings. It's like, if you're gonna understand Rori and I as like a casting,
you're like, watch this
team, watch this movie, and you'll get a sense of like what our taste is, period. It's great actors, indie actors, great people with comedy, weirdos, people that are just like themselves. Like we just love that.
Well, that's interesting because in one of your videos I was watching, you were like, we don't want you to be perfect. Like there's this idea that it's like, come in and be perfect, and it's like, we want to see humans. Like we want to see the flaws. Yeah, yeah. If you come in, like, show us you. Yeah, I was just talking, do you know Brandon Durden? He's an amazing actor. He's now runs the NYU grad acting program. Okay. Or is one of the people that runs it. Okay. Me and him were talking after the NYU showcase, and he was like, I was like, what I loved about this class is like they all just felt like little prisms. And he's like,
that's the word that I use. I was like, that's the word that I use, is like, we just want actors to be like, you are your own prism, and then whatever you say will filter through it differently.
Yes.
Just based on who you are. And that's enough. Like, you know, take all the context clues and, you know, get yourself in the right parameters to do it. But then just like bring your own point of view to it, and that will be enough. This idea that like you get something and you're like, oh, I've got to now figure out like how I fit into this thing. It's like more bring yourself and your own colors to it, and like that's why we're asking you to do this thing. But yeah, that's my thoughts on prisms.
I love it. I love it.
And
prism.
People.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Okay, we have questions. So many questions. It's just so fun that you're in my house.
I know, I love it. You guys, I wish you could see this house. It's like
My
everything
apartment.
you want like a New York apartment to be. So we're all on this journey, especially in this industry that's like very nonlinear. There's lots of detours. You always have to be like open to where it's going to take you.
Yes.
And even when our industry is in a more stable place, it can be difficult. So how are you navigating the industry now that we're post-COVID, post-2 strikes? Like, I don't think people outside of the entertainment industry really fully understand, like, how messed up it still is. I don't even think we know fully how bad it is.
No.
But how are you navigating that, and how do you handle that in life?
Yeah, it's, you know, you got to have a little faith. So I feel like half of it is like, well, we've made it through. I've been with Rori for 9 years now, and there's been a lot of ups and downs, but we always get another job. And we're like, okay, we just have to like, we always say like work begets work. Like we have to just believe that like we're doing our thing and we have good relationships and people like to work with us. And we just have to hope that like we just keep moving forward and doing our thing. And even though it feels like we're going into like a weird quiet time, like statistics will show we'll be okay. So I'm like, that has to be my number one principle, is like believe that I will work. Because the minute that I like start getting nervous about it or panicking, I'm like, this negativity is not helping me get a job. So because we're the same as you guys. We're just freelance too.
Well, I was going to say, as freelancers, it's a difficult world to navigate, and you never know when the next thing is coming. It's not like we're lucky or unlucky. I don't know, to have a 9 to 5, however you look at it. You just can only control it to some degree, but the thing you can control is having faith of like, okay, well, I know what I've signed up for in this life. I know like this is the schedule that I've chose to live my life by, that like things will come and go. It will be chaos. Sometimes I'm too busy. Sometimes I'm not busy enough. And it's just, eventually it comes out in the wash, and I just have to believe in that principle. Yeah. But do you ever have like days when you feel sad, or are you always able to maintain the... Girl, please. No. I'm like... No, but I realized I'm very good at self-soothing after many years living in New York City and many years being in the industry. How do you self-soothe? Tell me. What's the ritual? Do you have a ritual? I have so many things. I have so many things. Educate me. What do you do? I was a dancer, so like movement is really important to me as like a release. So I exercise every morning. Either I do like, I love yoga. I do a lot of yoga. Okay. Do you do it right here with all your lovely plants? Right there. Amazing. Yeah, it's my little yoga spot. I do Pilates, I do yoga. Okay. I've been like back into taking more classes. I've been doing like some like little like exercise dance classes again. I bike a lot. So I try to do like some sort of physical, turn my brain off, put my phone away, like just like listen to my body moment a day. Do you meditate? It feels like something you would do. It's like part of it for me. Okay. I'm not good at just like sitting and meditating, but for me, like movement is meditation. Okay, got it. Like I connect to the breath, then you do the kind of thing. Yes. And it feels helpful. Do you bike in Manhattan? I bike in Manhattan. Do you wear a helmet? Yeah. Okay, good. But if I'm city biking, I kind of don't. But if I'm using my own bike, I do. Okay. Yeah. I can't fit on a city bike. I would love to. Crazy. No, it's like, you can fit on a city bike. No, I've tried so many times. You're not that much shorter than me. I'm 5'1" 3/4", but they're also very heavy. They are really heavy. They're really heavy bikes. Yeah. But I do really love to bike. If I lived in Brooklyn, like in like a little side street situation, I would. It's better because we have the bike path. Oh, okay. So you can just use it like a freeway. Just zip, zip, zip. And you've never had scary moments, like. Not crazy. You just have to, be aware. Okay, so this is something else. So I feel like as I've gotten older, I've realized the importance, not as I've gotten older, I guess I've just really recognized the importance of community now at this point in my life. It's my whole bag. Yes, right? Like both the community that you build like organically and also the people that you seek out. Yes. Like this even, and just being like, hey, this is like a random reach out. We literally did not know each other.
I mean, I knew you, but you didn't know me.
Well, I knew of you, obviously.
I watched, I've been looking at you from afar for many years.
Oh, well, me too. But, like, in this world,
yes.
right?
Yeah, you've never been on my couch.
Until today, folks. Until today. But it's like this community, I feel like, is so essential for everyone in life. And especially in this industry, maybe. Like, it's grounding. It's something you can hold on to.
Yes.
I feel like you have a super tight-knit community. Is
Very.
that something that was, like, really intentional? Or did you just find your way into it?
I got so lucky. I went to NYU, and it's crazy. Like, at our graduation, Spike Lee spoke at our graduation.
Spike Lee?
Yeah. And he was like, I went to NYU. Couldn't tell you what I learned. And we were all like, that's the tea, because same. We rolled on a floor for 4 years. It's pretty much like what we talked about. But he was like, the thing that I learned, or the thing that I left most from NYU was community. And I was like, I've never felt like every single thing clicked in my brain. And I was like, oh, that's what that was. And he was like, keep your community close. Like, cherish these friendships. Like, invest in these people that are around you. You're all coming up together. And, like, you will populate so many corners of the industry, and hold on to each other and support each other, because, like, if you open a book and someone else opens a book, your chapter 1 and their chapter 1 are completely different. Like, you can't compare, like, where someone is at any point in their book. Like, you just have to keep doing your thing and have them do their thing, but support each other in it, and you will be shocked how much you both get out of it. And I was like, that's like my entire life philosophy.
I really just got chills. I have goosebumps.
Yeah, and it was like the best thing I could have ever heard at graduation, because I realized, like, I built this really strong group of friends and people that I just thought were brilliant. And NYU brings, like, the most amazing, brilliant, crazy people together. Yeah. And our class was, like, especially amazing. Like, we had so many great people, and we all just kind of, like, kept the friendships and community alive, and everyone did different things. I lived with Dave Mazzoni, who's an amazing comedian, and he was in this little musical sketch comedy group that they had started at NYU called Pop Roulette, and it was like Matt Rogers and Bowen Yang and Matt and Sudie Green and all these, like, brilliant NYU comedy people were all together. So I would, like, hang out with them, and then Rachel Brosnahan's my other best friend from NYU, and so I would, like, watch Rachel. Same year? Yeah, we were all the same year. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah, dear God, that turned out a great...
Alex Edelman was our year, who's, like, killing it right now.
NYU, what that class alone is, like...
My other best friend, Zoe Robin, she wrote a spec script that then Netflix bought, and she's now showrunning a show she created. Like, it's crazy. So all of our friends from all these different corners of NYU are now doing, like, so many different things in the industry, but a lot of us are still in New York or in LA, and we see each other, but it's a really, like, special community and friendship that we've now been friends from anywhere from 12 to 15 years, most of us.
Amazing.
So,
and then that idea of community is so important, because I think that there's also so much competition in this industry.
And you just, like, can't go down that road.
You can't, because it's so negative, and it's not
And everyone's
real.
on a different path, and their timing is completely different, and, like, everyone is their own prism, and so, like, something that was right for one person isn't right for someone else, and you just, like, cannot compare. Even with casting, like, when I watch, like, casting friends succeed, I'm never like, oh, that should have been me with that job or something. It's like,
I do think that we're lucky, because I think our generation...
New York is unique like this, too.
I agree, because I don't know if that exists in LA. Maybe that wasn't my experience in LA, but I will say I think it's very different here, and I'm so grateful for that. I think that there's more of this mentality that if it's not your like, there is a project and a role for everybody. Yeah. And what's yours will be yours. Yeah. Nobody's going to take that away from you. Like,
and it's cool to see what someone else is like. Like, I'll look at a cast and be like, oh, that's so interesting that they picked that person. Oh, that's good to, like, I'm learning constantly from how my peers, like, make decisions. And I'm like, oh, I should look at that person. Or, like, oh, like, this completely melted my brain, and I have yet to ask them if they did this intentionally or not. But Laura Rosenthal and Jodie Angstrich, they are amazing, A. B, they cast Fleischman's in Trouble.
Yes. Did you read the book, too?
I haven't read the book, but I loved the limited series.
Yes, me too.
But, like, the casting of it made my brain explode, because I realized which I think a lot of people caught on to, that, like, Lizzie Kaplan, Adam Brody, Jesse Eisenberg, they're all, like, are child stars, or, like, we're teen stars.
Yeah.
And they naturally come with Arrested Development baggage.
Yeah.
So when you as the audience are watching them, you're like holding on to this teen version of them, and you're holding on to this younger version of them, and you're watching them cosplay adults, and you're like, this is kind of weird, but working, but like bizarre. And so there's like a bug in your head, and I'm gonna kill it if it's the last thing I do. And I was like, I need to ask Jodie. I can only imagine this was a discussion that they had about the philosophy of how to approach casting these parts.
God.
But it opened up like another layer of casting for me, where I was like, right, we are artists and have a craft of our own, and we can come in with a theory or philosophy and make strategic decisions of how to like place people in something that adds a whole other layer and texture and color to the world.
Totally.
And if that was an accident, like, bless them, I have a feeling it was probably a strategic move on their part, but I just like, it completely melted my brain, and I was like, this is why I watch my friends work, because like,
it's
you know,
so
everyone has
to
their own
see
way
those.
in, and yeah, it's really cool.
Okay, well, you let me know once you talk to them. And
I know, I should just text Jodie and be like,
no, you
can you confirm?
Yes, please. Okay.
Oh, more questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, I go on tangents. I'm trying to be good, but also I talk a lot, so.
I talk a lot too, and I want tangents. Like, it's more exciting. Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is something about your journey that you're especially proud of? Like, no matter what happens from here on out, like this project or this relationship that you created or this thing that you learned, kind of, you'll always hold on to.
Oh, that's a really good question.
You can take a second, because I feel like that's a lot.
You know, I'm going to go with my first gut impulse on it.
Tell me.
And it's kind of broad, but I think the most rewarding thing has been like trusting my intuition and my gut, and that I was open, like, I think that feeling open to receive whatever is coming at me. So I went to NYU for acting, first for musical theater, and then followed my gut. Then I realized that, you know, because sometimes like you make a decision and you think like, well, this is the thing that I said I was going to go out and do, so I have to go out and do it, and I have to prove to all these people that expected this thing of me that I have to fulfill this thing. Yeah. And I was like, my gut's telling me that this isn't where I'm supposed to be. And so it was important for me to like take stock of that and listen and figure out what I had to do to make myself feel better. From there, I went to screen acting, which was a better world for me, but still not quite the right thing. And inside of that, I learned a lot about, like, their whole philosophy was about individuality. And that was really, like, formative for me. And then I started interning, like, in the business side of things. But I remember feeling like I was going, like, just running towards any door that would open for me and going, like, where the water was warm. And then feeling like, how did I feel about that? And, like, listening to, like, my intuition about it. Oh. Like, I was at Stone Street, and I was trying to figure out what I want to do. I happened to meet a casting director who was, like, young and cool and vibrant, and I, like, melted my brain because I didn't know that that could be a thing.
Yeah.
And she was, like, really gracious and gave me time and, like, space to actually talk to her about what I wanted. And she was like, oh, I think you should look into casting. I think that's something that would be good for you. So, like, that moment of generosity and kindness was, like, life-changing. And that opened a door that I, like, ran through. That opened another door and the casting doors just kept kind of opening. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think, like...
That must have been very affirming that you were making the right decision.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? Whatever happens, like, I came out of NYU. I have all my acting training. I have all these different interests in different things. And, like, we'll just see what doors open. And maybe, like, I'll get acting traction. And, like, maybe that's the direction that I should go. And I'll listen to that. But, like, it never felt... Like, I just felt like I kept hitting, like... bumps, but not in like the productive, like, oh, I'm hustling and I'm getting somewhere bumps. And like, my gut kept being like, that doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. And so at every turn, I think like, I think that's been like the most rewarding thing about the journey, I would say, is like believing that like, that the work begets work, and you put your foot forward and you move through these doors, and like, you can build the life that you want, and it's okay to like pivot or change or be open to receiving something that you didn't even know was possible.
I'm so inspired by that, because there is this feeling or this pressure to kind of stay the course of some decision
or prove something, or prove that you've invested time or money to go to a department or a thing, and that it must correlate to it exactly. But there's so much you can do
within that same framework.
Within it, yeah, exactly.
But that's just maybe different than what you initially thought that thing looked like.
Or had no idea existed. And so you have to be able to, like, be curious and open to figuring out what it is, and then listen to your gut if it feels right or wrong, because you just don't know until you check it out.
Exactly. And everything that you did in all of your training as an actor
Completely symbiotic.
informs you as a casting director.
Yeah.
So it all helps.
Yeah. I always say, like, on my deathbed, like, I will look back and only remember, like, the performances that I was, like, so lucky to be up close for, like, in rooms, like, the things that I've been able to witness, like, those special moments, and, like, the friendships in my life. Like, those are, like, the greatest gifts of my life, are, like, the people in it and the things that I've been able to watch, like, period. It's, like, I'm, like, gonna cry.
God,
but no,
if I didn't have so many more questions, I'd be like, end it there, because it's, like, that is
it
so
really
beautiful.
is. Like, I got so lucky. Like, it's completely not lost on me. Like, between all the different things, like, I'm very lucky.
Let's do a hard pivot here.
Okay. Hard pivot.
Well, just in terms of, we were talking about all the successes and good things. Do you know who Kat Kinsman is? She writes for Food and Wine.
I don't.
So there was this recent article that she wrote, and I loved it because it was called My Epic Fail, and she went into the restaurant world and chefs and talked about, or asked these people what their epic fail was.
Ooh.
Because we so often highlight our successes, and there's so much value, I think, in reflecting and talking about our heartaches and the things that didn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for me as an actor, there's 150 failures for every, like, one success.
Totally.
So I don't think it's like that for everyone. It's just the nature of the industry, but everybody has some kind of failure. Is there anything that you would like to talk about?
Ooh.
Even if it's not a career failure, even if it was something that you felt as a person you failed in some way. I don't know.
I did feel like a musical theater failure, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, I think there was, like, this feeling when I came to the NYU musical theater department. I think, like, I'm sure I'm internalizing this probably more, but, you know, it was a little bit catty. I'm still friends with almost, like, you know, big chunk of the people, but there was this, like, I had this feeling, because I came in more of, like, a dancer who could act and sing, but I didn't, and I'm, like, you hear my voice, I'm, like, an alto. I'm, like, a super alto. I'm not an ingenue. I do not sing soprano. I don't sing high. I have no classical singing training.
Okay, yep.
And I walked into school, and they were like, oh, no, you're not allowed to sing alto your freshman year. You have to only sing, like, they were trying to develop your upper range, so you have to sing soprano. And I felt like every day I was like, they're waiting for me to quit. Yeah. Everyone thinks that I have no talent. Everyone's wondering, like, why I got into this program. And I felt like shit every single day. And I would, like, go up and epically fail in front of all of my peers and, like, not able to sing these, like, classical musical theater songs. And it was mortifying and, like, tragic. And then it started, like, trickling into other corners of school where I was, like, confident that I suddenly lost confidence, or like I started doubting myself, and it became this, like, self-fulfilling prophecy thing where I was, like, publicly failing every single day.
You're away from home because you're from LA.
And I'm from LA, and it was like
that's such a vulnerable time in life.
It is a really vulnerable time, and I just felt, like, completely, like, in over my head and unsupported, and I was, like, surrounded by all of these, like, people that were like, oh, she must have only gotten in because of her grades, and I was like, kind of, yeah, like, that's not a lie.
That's, like, not good vibes or energy from other people to feel like that's what's happening.
But I also, like, now with distance and less traumatic feelings attached, like, yeah, there was really something, I'd never really failed like that before. Like, I'm someone who's very, like, A plus B equals C. I work very hard. I've always been, like, straight A, AP student.
Me
like,
too!
I am, like,
which
that.
Is why it's funny for type A people like us in this industry.
Which is why I'm not an actor.
Right,
you know,
that's what's hard for me as an actor, because it's like, I was that same person. Never got a B my entire life. And so now, weirdly,
I was like, I'm obsessed with achievement.
Yes.
And it used to correlate where, like, people
so,
love me. Teachers love me.
Yeah.
I work hard. I do well.
Yes.
And that's how it goes. And suddenly I was, like, thrown into this situation where...
Huge adjustment.
Where I was, like completely, like, recalibrating, where I'm like, okay, well, I'm letting go of academic life and I'm moving into artist life. And, like, what is that reckoning? And then, like, what is it like to be rejected every day? Because, like, that is what artist life is in some weird way.
Oh, yeah.
So now with, like, distance, I really do value that time, because I also didn't give up. And I wasn't like, you're right, I'm bad and I should leave. And, like, anytime a teacher or someone wasn't, like, kind or wasn't supportive or, like, hinted I could transfer programs, I'd be like, no, I'm going to figure it out. and my voice did get better, and I didn't give up, and they finally started letting me sing when I could actually sing, and then everyone in my class was like, oh, you really can do something. Yeah, and it was like a totally different thing, but I do value having to like figure out, like, is this something that I want to keep going on? Like, I listen to your gut thing of like, don't think that this will be the ultimate world that I exist in, but I do want to like push through and try to like, learn something from this, or like get better in some way, or show like some sort of growth or development, and not just like let them win and crush me because they're telling me that I can't do it. So,
oh my gosh, 100%.
Yeah, that would be my epic fail. It was just a really big year of adjusting.
That must have been so hard.
It was really tough. Yeah, it was
really
really
tough.
tough.
Have like random nightmares that take you back to that time? Like, is there any of that stuff that's
only
still,
to
like,
high school math?
Ooh, high school math.
I get sent straight back to high school.
Which one?
Like
algebra, geometry.
It's always like, it's more of just like I have a math test and I'm not prepared.
Oh, interesting.
Is like where my brain immediately goes.
Isn't it
when
funny
I get
that we
stressed?
all have something like that like still pops up in like weird moments?
Yeah,
and
that's
like,
always.
Why does it live in me still?
I know, that's always my stress dream. I used to sleepwalk when I worked at CBS. We had a very old school system where the actors would have to call on a physical phone outside of the elevator, and I'd have to walk down a hallway and open the door and let them in and walk them all the way down. And I did it so many times a day, probably 50 times a day.
You got a lot of steps in.
I got a lot of steps in because, if we saw 30 people a day, they'd have to go to the bathroom and come back in. And so, 60 times a day I was doing this walk back and forth. Yeah. To the point where I would do it in the middle of the night, where I would open my bedroom door and like look for actors. And I would have to like talk myself off the ledge and be like, okay, actors don't come to your house, and it's also the middle of the night, and no one auditions at night, and oh my fucking God, I'm fucking sleepwalking. And then I would like shut my door and like lay in a panic and be like, this is really scary.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
No, thank God. I haven't done it in a while.
Was that like an anxiety-driven thing?
I think it was like being like, when you're overtired and you can't turn your brain off. I think it was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I haven't done that in a while.
Oh, thank God. That's a scary thing. I know. Roaming around like on the streets. Okay. Oh, okay. So
more questions.
I'm going to make this fast.
Oh, no, ask me all of them.
Okay.
I'm going to give one word answers. They'll be fast. I like the question about failing, though. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's sometimes fun to know people's failures and what they perceive their biggest failure to be.
Yeah.
Because we all have them. You know?
It's important.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So how have these past few years with like the pandemic and strike, how has that shaped your perspective or shifted it, if it has at all? Because, after, I feel like when we were in the pandemic, the 3 months when things were starting to loosen up a little, everyone was so craving human contact. But now it's weird to think that we're really back to like real life again. Yeah. And it's just, did any of that stick? Does it feel a little less?
No, I think a lot of it. I realized like I'm a very extreme extrovert. I really, really love people, and I like feed off of being around people. Yeah. I get energized by being at parties. Like I don't get tired. I can go forever, and then I get home and I'm like, then I'm tired. But I realized like in the pandemic, like I am an extreme extrovert, but I'm also I have an extreme introvert side that balances it. And I just never really given it space. And I really, really, really value my alone time. And I need it, and I must protect it. And so that's something that's really stayed with me. I do a lot of like solo bikes. I go to museums by myself.
Oh, I love that.
I will just go somewhere and read. I go to Central Park and I read. I go somewhere and I'll journal. Like, I just need, sometimes it feels nice to be like out and about around people, but I also like, I need time alone in my apartment where I talk to no one and I see no one. Yes. And that was like eye-opening for me in the pandemic. And I was like, this I will keep at all costs, and I have. And that has been important. Okay, next question. We're good. We're focusing. We're focusing. Okay.
No, this is great. Okay, I have 2 little sections of like rapid fire questions.
Okay,
I think
fun.
Okay, so this is just catering to the actors.
Oh, sorry everyone.
Yeah, just we're gonna cater to the actors for like 5 seconds, but also everyone else, like, see what you think about this. Because now that okay, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the most annoying thing actors do?
Don't trust that we care about them.
Should this is great. I love it. Should people send 2 takes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Will you?
Unless they're exactly the same. But if you're like, I don't know, I kind of like both, they feel different, then send them both.
Okay,
but
great.
yeah.
Well, because I always feel like now that everyone's relying on self-tapes, it's crazy.
I'd rather see more of you than less of you.
Right.
Give me more of an idea.
And we don't get you in the room giving us adjustments. Like, that's what I miss the most because I loved having that back and forth.
Yeah.
And that's what also people don't give casting directors credit for. Like, you shift and change the performance.
I think of it as like we're the rehearsal before you go to set. So we'll like warm you up and shape it.
Yes.
And it's almost like a little bit of coaching where you're like,
Oh.
let's get this in the ballpark of what, because you don't have time to adjust on set. So we used to be able to like fine tune things and then kick you off and then you would do what we fine tuned on set. So
Exactly.
I really miss that. That used to be my entire job. I would just be locked in a room all day. And it was the best.
Yeah, do you miss that?
All the time.
Okay, well.
Sorry, rapid fire.
Yeah, okay. Will you request an adjustment if you think that they're close?
Yes.
How do you feel about somebody asking for an online Zoom session now that the whole SAG?
We always make it an option in the appointment details, and people do take us up on it all the time, and we schedule them.
Okay,
So
great.
yes, do it.
And you get to give them adjustments,
Yeah,
if necessary. Okay,
Yeah.
So you miss being in person. That was a question. So do you? Miss
But the
being
Zoom
in person?
auditions have been really nice because it's almost the same.
Yeah,
You still can work with people. You get to chat. You build the relationship.
that's kind of it about the actor stuff. Now let's just go to like New York
Ah,
stuff. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Favorite bagel shop.
Russ and Daughters.
Okay, great.
Because of the full package.
Okay, favorite coffee shop.
I really love Rosencrantz in the West Village. Actually,
It's my favorite.
so I'm gonna say my favorite coffee shop is any coffee shop in New York that's a coffee shop and florist.
Yes, me too. Oh my god.
I have them all marked in my Google Maps.
Yes.
Of like this is like I try to only go to those.
But
'Cause I wanna,
Rosencrantz is like
it's really great.
the best.
I
The
know,
best.
don't go there though because we don't want to get too crowded.
Yeah. Okay, dating app. If you're on a dating app, or have been.
It's a nightmare, but like I guess Raya.
I know.
It's the only one that's vaguely helpful. I feel.
Agreed. Okay.
Help. Date me. I'm kidding. Only if you're hot and cool.
Yeah, and
Okay.
cool. Okay, best park or spot for a picnic.
So Riverbank Park is my other favorite.
Oh, okay, great. Now, which street in Upper West Side would you rather walk down? Broadway, Amsterdam, or Columbus?
Columbus.
Okay. That's all